Hi, Terry, this is Chris. Can you hear me? I see your audio is trying to connect. Hi, Terry, can I get an audio check with you?
Sure. Can you hear
Hi,
me
Terry.
okay? Hi,
Yep.
how are you?
Good, very good, thank you. So
I'll start my video for just a second. I have a hard time. I struggle with internet, so I'll probably have to shut my video off as we proceed.
okay, no, so my understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Michael Foreman, Michael Carpenter, and Andrew, and yourself, or what can I expect now?
I don't know about Andrew. I know it'll
Okay.
be Michael Carpenter, Michael Foreman, and myself.
Okay, and Terry, your official title.
I am the local government policy specialist of the Northwest.
Okay, so we actually have three then, because I know Michael Carpenter's a local
Yes.
policy specialist, Michael Foreman is, and yourself, correct?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
Michael is in this. Michael Foreman's in the Southwest, and I'm in the Northwest.
Okay, perfect. All right, great.
And I think Mike talked to you about sharing my screen.
Yeah, no, that will be fine. Hi, Michael, and you should have, Terry, you should have that authorization as already granted.
Okay,
So,
I'm going to go ahead and just make sure that
sure, go ahead and test it.
right.
Good afternoon, Commissioner. How are you?
Very good, Michael. Thank you so much. Yep, perfect. Yep, that's not a problem, Terry. So what will happen, Terry and Michael, about probably in about 3 or 4 minutes, I'm going to go ahead. I will do a screen share, which is really just the cover of the home rule guide in Pennsylvania with John Jay or Madison, or a quote really from Federalist Papers. I'll put that up, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to go ahead and get that over to Facebook so we can be streaming it, right? In case, and that will give the opportunity, should any public participants have a question as we go through the conversation, well, we'll go ahead and attempt to thread their questions in at the appropriate time, if it doesn't necessarily talk about something where we are maybe on the timeline of our discussion. And worst case scenario, if we don't get any questions, or we get a bunch of questions but we don't get to address them directly, after the stream, I will go ahead and email the questions to you all for consideration of answering. In a week or two, if you get them back to me, then I'll go ahead and actually publish them back onto the Facebook stream. So the public, will have those answers maybe to questions that were not answered. And Terry, let me ask you, the slides you have, are they following a particular sequence? Is it the one over the world overview?
Basically, it's an overview beginning with just a brief overview of home rule, and then county structures. The 7 counties that are home rule now, their structure of government is included in this home rule.
Okay, so what I'll do, I'll start off with some quick introductory statements or comments, and that will take a minute or two as I move through that. And then I'll go ahead, Terry, I'll turn it over to you for that overview. And then my role will be to try to guide a conversation more or less following what I like to refer to as kind of the muscle moves when it comes to home rule. First, maybe if not already hit upon, recent history, and I'm talking starting in 1972, right? Not going back to William William Penn. Then talk about, how the ballot question is established. Talk about what that ballot question consists of. Then that first vote that takes place for the Government Study Commission and its members. What is the Government Study Commission's charter? What is it expected to do? So that's that next move, the Government Study Commission and its role. Ultimately, it's due out, which is either, advising or not advising a change to the local form of government, and potentially, if a change is recommended, development of a home rule charter, and dive in a little bit into the what we're seeing in home rule charters right now, be it term limits, be it tax caps, and also always hitting upon the pros and cons of the entire process. Then go into the second vote, which is not for a study commission, but it's a vote to change government. And then talk a little bit about implementation, transition. And again, always like to highlight throughout, as I mentioned, the limits on home rule. And that might be upfront also, be it, incongruency with the Constitution or existing laws. And throughout, I will be reminding people, hey, if you have a question or comment, feel free to go ahead and push it into Facebook. Does that sound good?
Well, Commissioner, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, Michael, Terry, and I, and we'd like to get through our PowerPoint. It's not very long, it's brief. Good. And then some of the topics that you just touched on would certainly be applicable questions for you or any member of the public to ask, certainly.
Right.
But we'd like to hold questions to the end of the PowerPoint.
Okay.
And then that gives us the ability to have a free flow of exchange of questions and answers.
Perfect.
If you're okay with that.
Absolutely. That's good. Save all questions to the end. Very familiar with that format, and that is absolutely fine. So I'm going to let Michael in here real quick. We'll do an audio check with him. Like I said, then I'm going to break away for a couple minutes. It will be streaming. It is recorded so that we can go ahead then and do a little bit of editing on the front end and back end, just to make sure there's an introductory and stuff as we continue to post it and make this available to the public. So let me get the other Michael here, and then Michael, I just want to do a commo check with you before I step away for a minute or two. I got you good on video. Michael, if you can give me an audio check, a short count, long count, whatever serves.
Okay, here I am.
Oh,
It's an
loud
audio
and clear.
check.
All right.
Yes, actually, I didn't have my, I was muted. Sorry about that.
No, that sounds good. All right, I'm going to break away, like I said, for a minute or two while I do a little bit of magic to get this a live streaming. You'll see a share screen that will pop up. And feel free, if you want, like I am, I'm going to go ahead and mute as I move this around a little.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
And just to let everyone know, I did let the commissioner know that I probably will go off video. It's because it's hard for me to do both when we have more than 2 or 3 people. So sorry about that. The struggles of Northwest.
And just to give you each a heads up, it is live streaming. We'll start in about a minute to about 90 seconds. So it is live streaming right now. And just to give you each a heads up, it is live streaming. We'll start in about a minute to about 90 seconds. So it is. All right, there's Andrew. Andrew, if you'd like to give us an audio check, that would be great.
Yeah, mic check.
Okay, good. And we'll
I may
start.
have to, sorry, I may have to leave a little early. I just wanted to check in with the team here, maybe learn a few things while I do.
Great. Andrew, we'll be starting about 30 seconds or so here.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just making sure it's moving around on Facebook. Andrew, and it is being recorded.
Very good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the rain always messes with us down here in Jim Thorpe. Our connectivity goes to heck, it seems, as soon as we get a little bit. All right, there we go. We're all good. So here we go. We're going to get started right now. I am also looking at the feed. I have another device on. So, well, first and foremost, good afternoon. I'm Carbon County Commissioner Chris Lukasiewicz, and I want to thank the public for joining us this afternoon. In just a moment, I'll be introducing our guests, but the topic really is local government reorganizations and the options that the law provides for municipalities to organize their government to deal with local issues in a local way. So move away from the cookie cutter approach that is often attached to the county code. And what we have in here, Carbon County, 3-commissioner form of government. So with me today, joining me from the Department of Community and Economic Development are 3 local government policy specialists and their manager. You have Terry Kunkel, Michael Carpenter, Michael Foreman, and Andrew Schief will be joining us for about the next hour. And how we will move through the next hour is, first and foremost, Terry and the team will provide us an overview, one over the world overview of home rule, right? And that's the term we'll use. Have that overview of home rule. I would ask that just kind of hold your questions. You can start posting them as Terry is speaking, and we'll try to get to them, starting with the conclusion of the formal presentation. And then after the formal presentation, I'll ensure that we're moving as best we can through the questions and also following kind of the muscle moves associated with the establishment or consideration of establishment of home rule or an optional form of government. I would also like to remind everyone that Carbon County is surrounded, has 3 counties contiguous to us, Lehigh, Luzerne, Northampton, which are home rule counties. So just bear that in mind as we move through this conversation. And I'm going to start with one quote from the Federalist Papers for those great studiers of American history. And it says, "Hearken not to the voice which petulantly tells you that the form of government recommended for your adoption is a novelty in the political world, that it has never yet had a place in the theories of the wildest projectors, that it rashly attempts that which is impossible to accomplish. No, my countrymen, shut your ears against the unhallowed language. Shut your hearts against the poison which it conveys." And the bottom line is, keep an open mind to the conversation we're going to have and the potential opportunities that a government study commission might present to our county or any other county, such as Better Schuylkill, which has a nascent home rule movement, or for example, Washington County, which actually has a ballot question on to November. And with that said, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Terry from DCED. Thank you, Terry, Michael, and Andrew.
Thank you, Commissioner. I am just going to share my screen, and Michael Carpenter is actually going to do the PowerPoint, go through the PowerPoint with everybody.
Great.
So I'm going to turn it over to Mike, and I'm going to share my screen.
Thanks, Terry. Good afternoon, everyone. Home rule basically transfers authority to act in, one second, I need to shift my screen here. Home rule transfers the basic authority to act in municipal affairs from state law to a local charter drafted, adopted, and amended by municipal voters. Next slide. What is home rule? Home rule municipalities may exercise powers and perform functions not denied by the U.S. Constitution, the Pennsylvania Constitution, state laws, specific restrictions of Act 62, laws that are uniform and applicable in every part of the Commonwealth, the Home Rule Charter itself, transfers authority in municipal affairs from state law and municipal codes, and decided upon, approved, and amended by the voters. Next slide, please. The principles of the Home Rule are as follows. Opportunity to shift governance from state municipal code to local citizens. It allows for the flexibility in defining structure, power, taxation, and other functions of the municipality. It offers the opportunity to create a government that best meets the needs of the municipality. What are reasons for home rule? It identifies accountability, focused political leadership. It offers professional administration, enhances fiscal procedures and controls. There is flexibility. Separate legislative and executive functions exist under home rule. Residual powers. So basically, you write your own administrative code.
Yeah.
It increases citizen participation. It increases responsiveness and a wider representation. Limitations of home rule. Arbitration, labor relations, the boundary change laws, the election code, ethics laws, recall, reappointment, the Sunshine Law, Open Records Law, Recycling and Waste Reduction Act, the Vehicle Codes, firearms hunting regulations, private business limitations, regulations of utilities, eminent domain, zoning, including more specifically the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code, local agency law, tort claims, unit debt act, taxation subjects, veterans preference, clean streams, sewage facilities act, and last but certainly not least, stormwater and management act. Home rule considerations, the forms of government, taxation, real estate code limitations, which would be general purposes, operation and procedures, meetings, public hearings, records, operating rules, legislative actions, form of action by governing body, publication and effective dates, and ordinance codification. The following are home rule municipalities. 1968, Commonwealth adopted Article 9, Section 2 of the Pennsylvania Constitution, guaranteeing the right of all counties and municipalities to adopt home rule charters and exercise home rule powers. The law was actually enacted in 1972. Since 1972, home rule charters have been adopted by 79 municipalities within the Commonwealth and 7 counties. Those counties are Allegheny, Delaware, Erie, Lackawanna, Lehigh, Luzerne, and of course, Northampton, some of which you're familiar with because they are contiguous to Carbon County.
Yep. Oh, that's good.
So their current government structure in 7 home rule governed counties. And just want to go over a little bit of these and their bullet points. So Northumberland County has an elective county executive, appoints director of administration who oversees county operations. There's an elected county councils that consist of 9 members, 5 at large and 4 by district, and an elected controller and DA. Lehigh County has a elected county executive who oversees the functions of the Office of Register of Wills and Recorder of Deeds that were repealed by the charter. Elected board of 9 commissioners, and they are 9 members at large, unlike Northampton that has 4 by district. They have an elected controller, district attorney, sheriff, coroner, and clerk of judicial records. Lackawanna County, of course, has 3 elected county commissioners. They have an elected controller, treasurer, district attorney, sheriff, clerk, and judicial records, recorder of deeds, register of wills, and a coroner. Erie County has an executive, 3 consecutive term limit or 12 years, appoints a director of administration, a public defender, solicitor, directors of personnel, and the director of finance. They have an elected county councils. 7 members are elected by district, and they are restricted to 3 consecutive term limits. Elected clerk of courts, controller, coroner, district attorney, and sheriff. Delaware County has elected county council, which consists of 5 members at large, an elected district attorney, controller, sheriff, register of wills, and council appoints county executive director, county clerk, the coroner, the record of deeds, jury commissioner, treasurer, county solicitor, public defender, and the director of Office of Judicial Support. Allegheny County has an elected county executive with a 3-term limit. That executive appoints county manager and solicitor with council consent. They have an elected county council, 13 by district, 2 at large. They have an elected controller, district attorney, and sheriff. And last but certainly not least, to show the differences of the home rule charters in the various counties is Luzerne County, who has an elected county council, 11 members at large. They appoint board of elections and registration, board of tax assessment, appoint county council clerk. They appoint the county manager, and the county manager then has the ability to appoint a public defender, county solicitor, and county administrator with, of course, council's confirmation in Luzerne. There is an elected district attorney and controller in Luzerne County. The home rule process. Form a government study commission, the forming of a government study commission, There's a referendum that is placed on the ballot by ordinance of the governing body or 5% of the electors in the in the last gubernatorial general election. Voters are asked 2 questions. Elect a government study commission to study existing form of government and, of course, home rule. Select electors on the ballot running for the government study commission, and that can be 7, 9, or 11 members, depending on the ordinance. If home rule fails to pass, the same question cannot be placed on the ballot as a referendum for 5 years. The Government Study Commission timeline. So just to give you an idea of the timing, within 10 days of the certification of election, the Government Study Commission elected members must meet to take an oath. That again is within 10 days of the certification of elections, the Government Study Commission elected, the members must meet to take an oath. Within 15 days of certification of election, the Government Study Commission must organize and hold its first public meeting. Within 9 months of election certification, the Government Study Commission must determine no change or proceed with home rule. No change final report is drafted and the Government Study Commission role is complete. Home rule recommended. Government Study Commission will have 18 months from election certification to draft a charter for referendum. The implementation of home rule. The municipality shall be governed under the provision of the plan for the first Monday in January following the municipal election occurring after the next succeeding primary election, except as provided in section 2924C. Home rule resources of information. The Governor's Center for Local Government Services, Home Rule in PA, that is our website. That is who the 3 representatives from DCD, we work for the Center of Local Government Services. Our website is dcd.pa.gov. Our toll-free number is 1-888-223-6837. Other home rule municipalities are a good resource.
Yeah.
The Pennsylvania Municipal League Home Rule Advocacy Committee, the League of Women Voters, colleges and universities, and the International City County Management Association. Carefully consider where your information is coming from. It may be wise to use multiple sources to help ensure that a sound charter is produced. And again, joining us today is Michael Foreman of DCD's. He is a local government policy specialist in the Southwest region of Pennsylvania. Terry Kunkel, who is also a local government policy specialist. And Terry represents the Northwest region of Pennsylvania. And my name is Michael Carpenter, and I represent the Northeast region of Pennsylvania, the lower half of the Northeast region. Again, we are all local government policy specialists, and we work for the Department of Community and Economic Development and the Governor's Center for Local Government Services.
Michael, well, thank you. Thank you so much for that overview. And I do have to send out really big kudos to DCED and their work on this publication. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm a policy wonk. So stuff like this, I really enjoy. You know, the home rule in Pennsylvania, the updated guide is an excellent, excellent resource to really get some good in-depth understanding of the process. But as you alluded to, you know, the existing 7 home rule counties have vast experiences. Their charters are online. A multitude of the Government Study Commission reports are available online also. That again, you know, for those who like to do their own research, you know, and go to the primary source documents. If I could, I'd like to start by first telling the public that I'm Carbon County Commissioner Chris Lukasiewicz, and I'm joined by DCED local policy experts, and we're discussing local government reorganization options that are available in what is referred to as the Home Rule Law of 1972, which allows counties and municipalities overall to consider home rule or other optional forms of government to help organize local government to solve local issues with local solutions. Can we talk a little bit about Michael and Terry, a little bit about the process? It seemed like you mentioned there were 2 potential ways to get this on a ballot. And can you talk to those? Just reemphasize the 2 ways that it could get onto a ballot, the question of a government study commission.
Sure, I can handle that.
Yep.
Thank you. The first option that was presented in the PowerPoint is the governing body. In this case, it could be the Board of County Commissioners, whether it's a 3-0 vote or a 2-1 vote, certainly by majority vote of 3. Could adopt an ordinance that would be submitted to the county election office at least 60 days before the election, where the referendum would be held, whether or not to do 2 things. Number 1 is, should Carbon County hypothetically study the current form of government and also study the advisability of looking at either a optional plan form of government that is prescribed in the Home Rule Charter and Optional Plans Law, or to draft a Home Rule Charter, both of which would be presented to the voters. That's the first question. The second question is individuals that would run on a non-partisan basis. They would not run as a Democrat, they would not run as a Republican, nor would they run as an independent if the election is in November, but it's a nonpartisan election of being elected to the Government Study Commission of, again, either 7, 9, or 11 members that is spelled out in the ordinance that is submitted to the county election office. Again, 7, 9, or 11 members. So there's 2 questions that voters are asked at the ballot. Again, whether or not the Government Study Commission should be elected of 7, 9, or 11 members, and if so, should they study the existing form of government and the advisability of either home rule or an optional plan form of government. Those are the 2 questions that can be posed if the governing body initiates the action. The second choice is through what I would call a petition drive, where at least, and these could be registered voters that circulate these petitions throughout Carbon County, where at least 5% of those that voted in the last gubernatorial general election have to sign the petition, at least 5%. So in the petition, a preamble would need to be on the petition that is telling voters why they're being asked to sign the petition, which is similar to the question that would be in the ordinance that would be submitted to the county election office.
Mhm.
So the analogy is the same information on the preamble of the petition, again, dealing with 7, 9, or 11 members,
Mhm.
and whether or not a government study commission should be elected to study the existing form of government, or the advisability of adopting a home rule charter or an optional plan form of government. The petition also has to be submitted to the county election office at least 60 days before the election that is being held, to again elect government study commission members, and for the voters to approve whether or not there should be a government study commission to study the existing form of government
Mhm.
and look at the advisability of, again, a home rule charter or an optional plan form of government.
Michael, what role or responsibility does the local election office have to ensure that the petition meets the requirements of the Department of State? You know, that it's formatted properly, that the information is what is, taken from the voter is what is needed. Is there a formal responsibility for the Bureau of Elections?
Yes, if you're speaking specifically to the petition
Right.
that is submitted by again, voters who would sign the petition, but you would have a group of individuals that would be circulating the
Sure.
petition.
Yeah.
And accompanying the petition would also need to be an affidavit
Sure.
that the circulators are
Registered voters, right?
yes, they're
Yeah.
registered voters, that
Yeah.
they're the ones that circulated the petition within the specified time period, and that it is a valid document based upon the Home Rule Charter and Optional Plans law.
Right.
So that the county election board is actually the party that reviews the petition to make sure that the people that signed are registered voters, that they signed the petition completely with their name. I could ask for their address. It could ask for the date that they signed it. And certainly to make sure that they're registered voters of Carbon County,
Sure.
per
Of
se.
course.
So, it's really a legal proceeding that is gone through to assure that the petition is valid
Mhm.
and that it has at least the minimum required number of signatures.
Yeah.
If you're talking about the ordinance, the county election board certainly has to make sure that it was duly elected at a public meeting by a majority vote
Mhm.
with a quorum present, et cetera, pre-advertised, et cetera. And that it has the question in the ordinance,
Mhm.
like with the petition,
Mhm.
also identifying the number of government study commission members who are being elected.
Mhm. And so we're at the point of making a decision. Let's say a board of commissioners, or maybe a group, a political action committee. They can choose if it's more strategically beneficial to have the ballot question in the primary or the general election, and then that will drive the post-election timeline. Is that correct?
That is correct. The question can be held any year at any, May or November election.
Okay. So we just County X just decided to put it on the ballot, either by petition or by ordinance. It was successful. Government Study Commission, yes, 7, 9, or 11 members were elected. Now, I will emphasize, even if you vote no for the Government Study Commission ballot question, you are still expected or asked to vote for the Government Study Commission members, even if you vote no. But nonetheless, so the scenario is, boom, Government Study Commission, yes. Talk a little bit, if you all could understand, Michael's mentioned the timeline of the first 15 days after certification to have their first meeting and organize. What are they actually going to do? What are they assessing?
What party are you referring to regarding assessing?
So the Government Study Commission is looking at the existing form of county government. What would be some of the characteristics or traits that they're kind of assessing to see is there a better way to do things? And if advisable, we would recommend home rule.
Well, you certainly want to look at the current form of government, which in
Mhm.
this case would be the county code.
Right.
And you want to look at the existing Board of Commissioners,
Mhm.
the way it's structured, the way it's organized, the way it carries out its responsibilities of not only being a legislative body, but also being responsible for carrying out the policies that they adopt and the decisions that they make
Right.
through appointed individuals. And you want to see whether or not it's working
Right.
within your respective
Right.
county. And also talking with, should a government study commission be formed? You also want to look at how is it working within the respective county, and also interviewing not only the Board of Commissioners, but also interviewing the chief, the county chief clerk or department heads that are appointed by the Board of Commissioners, and also looking at boards and commissions that are created by the Board of Commissioners with regard to specific responsibilities that they carry out. And you want to see, and also talk to other counties, whether they're home rule or not, to see how the home rule and non-home rule counties feel about engaging and operating under a home rule charter, the pros, the cons, the advantages, the disadvantages, etc., so that the Government Study Commission can look at whether or not it feels as though it either wants no change, or if it does want change, it would then take a formal vote either way
Mhm.
to say no change. We write our final report based upon the decision that we came to regarding no change and reasons why there should be no change given the current way that the county is operating. If the Government Study Commission within the 9-month period formally votes to decide to go forward and draft a home rule charter, then they have an additional 9 months to do that.
Mhm.
If the Government Study Commission chooses to have elections by district within
Mhm.
the county, then they'd be given 2 additional months to come up
Mhm.
with a apportionment or
Right.
come up with a design of how the districts would be organized given relative proportional representation,
Okay.
and then present that to the voters through public hearings, public information meetings, such that it would then be, again, submitted to the county election office at least 60 days before the election. And a final report would also be drafted documenting the process that the Government Study Commission went through to reach its conclusion, which in the 18th month or 20-month case would be putting before the voters a home rule charter to vote up or down.
Right. Michael, that's great, because I had been going through the Luzerne County Government Study Commission, also the failed attempt in Lancaster County. There are just a couple that were available online. And as you alluded to, the final product, if advisable, is developing those home rule charters, which for all intent and purposes is a county level constitution, which is going to potentially reorganize and reshape the processes and procedures of county government. I would like
Yes.
to ask, is not home rule, if adopted, is it not similar in the private corporate world? And looking at the examples Michael gave, the unique, how each county might have shape their organizational structure. But at the end of the day, it looks pretty similar to a board of directors and a CEO or COO type of organization.
That is correct. Home rule allows for, as was stated early on in the presentation, and you did as well, Commissioner,
Yep.
A reorganization of the manner in which the government carries out its purpose, its function, and its activities, where you could move away from a 3-member county board of commissioners, and you could have hypothetically a elected county executive and a county council as a legislative body, where the county executive would literally be the one to execute the laws that the county council adopts.
Mhm.
And there's variations on the theme of a county executive given certain appointment powers
Right.
that may require the consent of the governing body, the county council. And the Government Study Commission proposes the manner in which the county council was organized in
Right.
terms of membership at large, by district, a combination. And it even looks at the row offices
Yes.
with regard to the election of these individuals and whether or not certain ones, such as the controller and the DA, which I believe have to remain elected, that the others, such as a treasurer, a sheriff, clerk of courts, prothonotary, recorder of deeds, etc., they may become appointed
Right.
offices that could be consolidated under what I would call one umbrella
Seen it.
that would operate as, again, extensions of the court system. So
Right.
that
Mhm.
there's an example within Lackawanna County and Delaware County where they do not have a county elected executive.
Right.
They have the governing body, the county council, that acts in an executive manner as well as in a legislative manner.
Mhm.
So it really does provide for flexibility, and it does provide for shaping and designing what the Government Study Commission feels works best for the respective county that they're operating under. I want to clarify one statement that I made a few minutes ago about when the question has to be placed.
Mhm.
Let me rephrase. When the question has to be submitted to the county election office,
Mhm.
I want to come out in front right now and said I was in error when I said 60 days. It has to be at least 13 Tuesdays
Right.
before the upcoming
Yep.
election that the nomination petitions have to be submitted to the county,
Right.
and the petition or the ordinance. Let me be clear again, I was incorrect. It has to be at least 13 Tuesdays before the upcoming election that the ordinance or the petition has to be submitted to the county election office, along with the nomination petitions of those that choose to run in the election as
Yeah.
commission members.
Yeah. So to clarify, the petition period for the Government Study Commission, its end, will run from the 20th Tuesday prior to the 13th Tuesday prior. Then the nomination period for those Government Study Commission members will run from the 13th Tuesday to the 10th Tuesday prior to that election. Then, of course, that is all based upon, are you going up, it's be it prior to the general or primary, depending on when that ballot question and those nominations for the Government Study Commission members determine, which is best, I would assume, strategically positioned to take advantage either of a high or low voter turnout election. One of the concerns I do know, for example, the county code has a cap on tax increases. 25 mil is the maximum number of mills that can be in a year that the county code allows, unless you go to the Court of Common Pleas and you could request an additional 5 mil. Would it be feasible in a charter to put a tax cap that is equal to or less than what the county code currently prescribes? Because that's always a concern you hear, that there will be free rein to raise the taxes an inordinate amount.
The Government Study Commission has the discretion and the opportunity to provide language in the Home Rule Charter that generically would put controls on the governing body and the county of the elected executive, if both are in place,
Right.
relative to real estate tax millage increases.
Mm-hmm. And Michael, you alluded to, the district attorney, potentially the controller, retaining their level of independence. That is, they remain elected, so they cannot be swayed one way or another. And I know often we kind of view the controller as the county auditor, really, in many aspects and programs. But as you demonstrated, and Michael showed in his slides, that many row what were former row office positions elected become really merit-based hires in many of the home rule counties. It may be one or two, it may be four or five, but there seems to be a lot of discretion in charters in regards to, how they want to approach these particular offices.
That is correct. Home rule charters, and most of them have this in it. And if it's not in the home rule charter, it's in the administrative code that Michael Carpenter alluded to with regard to the provisions that allow for what we call residual powers.
Right.
The point being is that a merit selection would be the basis upon which a appointed executive, a county manager, a county administrator would be appointed. Again, it could be by the county elected executive with the consent of the council, or it could be in a home rule environment where you don't have an elected executive. It could be the county council that would appoint the manager or the administrator. The point being that it's based on merit, experience, expertise, ability, education, and just overall experience in running in large organizations such as a county government. I also wanted to clarify that the 60 days that I mentioned is when a home rule charter is prepared and it's drafted. It's the charter and the final report have to go to the county election office to be put on a referendum at least 60 days before that election. So I wanted to clarify between the 60-day period and at least 13 Tuesdays before the next election as to what those two mean.
Okay. Yeah.
So I apologize for the confusion.
No, that's good. Thank you for clarifying that. Maybe we should talk about, and I find this unique because let me give you an example. Here in Carbon County, we have 3 commissioners. The fact is we have 23 municipalities. For all intent and purposes, for direct representation, only 2 of 23 municipalities are actually represented by commissioners. Less than 15.5% of the county population, right? So the 2 boroughs from which the 3 commissioners come from have direct representation. I would argue the others have indirect representation. And that's why I'm enamored with the possibility of both a combination of at-large and district or regional council members, as they're often referred to. Michael, can you speak a little bit about that, how you have these combinations of at-large and regional?
Yes, again, that is one option with regard to how the governing body is organized and how it's elected. With regard to districts, it certainly clearly designs geographical boundaries with respect to where individuals are elected from to represent mainly their district, but at the same time, they're certainly representing the county as a whole.
Sure.
If you do it by at large, like you have now, again, you maybe it's just by design that you end up with individuals that come from maybe certain municipalities, but not others, that are required to represent the entire county. With a combination of at-large and by district, you really have a balance where you not only have district representation, but you also have the at-large members that try to balance out the district representation and focus by looking at the county at large. And where I've seen that is normally the at-large are a lesser number than the district number.
Okay, no, that's great. That's a good little perspective that I didn't notice. The ratio of at-large compared to district. Michael,
wait, before I forget, it actually varies because Northampton County has 5 at large and 4 by district. So it kind of varies. And Allegheny County has 13 by district and 2 at large.
Right.
One of which has to be from each party. Okay. That was the way the charter was designed. So, again, you have the combination or you have one or the other.
Right.
And again, the beauty of the design is that you can come up with more at large or more by district or vice versa.
Yeah, I do like too, it seems, Michael, there's the option to have potentially something that we clearly lack and I think this is really countrywide, but definitely here in Carbon County, we have this untapped resource of non-affiliated or independent voters, right? And with 3 commissioners, they tend to be the driving force or the 2 parties. By potentially opening up the aperture, to maybe 7, 9, or 11 members, it could potentially open up the opportunity for an untapped resource in a county that previously, has been somewhat hindered by the 2-party process. Again, that's just an observation.
True.
Right. Normally, a county such as Carbon County, we have a real estate tax. We previously had an occupation tax, and that's more or less restricted by the county code. So I'm assuming, the law only gives municipalities certain taxing authorities. So it's not like a charter could allow to go beyond that, because it would fall outside of an existing law or constitution, correct?
That is correct. You're correct, Commissioner. The Constitution and the Home Rule law prohibit creating new subjects of taxation.
Okay, great. All right. And Michael, what do you see? I did see, at least in the executive, term limits were mentioned. And I'm assuming if the charter is written, can it also not for the other elected officials to put in term limits also?
What I've seen in my experience is term limits on a county elected executive and a county council.
Mm-hmm.
The others, if you're referring to a DA or a controller, I have to say that I've not seen that either way in a charter. Well, let me rephrase. I've seen it where there's no term limits,
Right.
but I've not seen term limits for a controller and DA.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, and that's good, because those tend to be remaining publicly elected versus appointed. And I think again, I can speak to Carbon County, if you're a hired employee, non-elected, you're an at-will employee. So you kind of, again, if you're not serving according to your duties and responsibilities, the Board of Commissioners, or for example, if you're hired under a different authority, could terminate your services. So that's kind of your expiration of your term of service, because they are all at-will employees.
Also, to the extent that they're not covered by civil service,
right,
or a collective bargaining agreement that may
yes.
provide due process rights regarding separation from employment, etc.
Mm-hmm. What I was going to ask, I did, Michael, in a lot of my reading, it seemed like, and again, let me give you an example. I describe county government in Carbon County as 3 branches of government, right? And again, I'm not going to say the executive, the legislative, and judicial, but in Carbon County, it would be the Board of Commissioners and the departments that fall directly under them. Then you have the row offices with their 1620, hire, fire, supervise. And then you have the judiciary. Now, we separate out the judiciary because it truly is an independent element. But with Home Rule, it appears you can bring those 2, you can cut down on the number of stovepipes or silos, bring those quote unquote row offices and departments under one collective administrative policy, and create that standardization and maybe limit some of the friction points that currently exist, be it in hiring, firing, just general policies overall.
That is correct.
Mm-hmm.
A Home Rule charter through the Government Study Commission could incorporate language that puts most of the row offices under the umbrella of the county executive or a county council, right, depending on the language in the charter. And normally it's under a county elected executive when you have a county council as well, versus like Lackawanna or Delaware counties that they don't have an elected executive per se. They have a county council that makes right, those types of appointments that have the most of the row offices under their umbrella to make appointments and also to deal with personnel and budgeting and the like.
Right. Michael, it was interesting, someone had raised the question, well, we've had the opportunity for home rule since 1972, so about 49 years, and next year we'll go to 50-year anniversary of the actual implementation, right, in 72, and we only have 7 of 67 counties. But I'll have to be honest, we've had democracy in the world for literally thousands of years, if you check history, but only half the countries in the world are considered democracies. So I just wanted to raise that statement because I saw that had popped up there. Michael, I wonder if we can take a few minutes to talk about how transition takes place. So all of a sudden you have this county code form of government with 3 commissioners and really almost a dozen elected officials, to include the row officers. How do you transition from county code to home rule?
Well, should the Home Rule Charter be adopted by the voters, the Home Rule Charter has a chapter in it that deals with transition issues.
Okay.
With regard to going from one system of government to another. And that could deal with not only elections of individuals, should the form of government change to the extent that you're going to be moving to a county elected executive and a larger county council membership, that the election cycle would then go into effect with regard to putting that new system of governing in place. However, existing county commissioners whose terms of office have not yet expired could become part of the new governing body until their terms of office are over. So that's one portion of it. Another portion would be, should there be the need to hire new individuals, such as a county manager or a county finance officer that would work with, under the aegis of the county executive or county council, depending on the structure of the government. So that would have to take place. You'd also have to look at the codification of your ordinances that would have to take place within a period of time once the new charter takes effect. So the charter in a transition chapter would spell out the time frame and the steps that need to be taken in order to totally effectuate the implementation of the new form of government, which could take a couple years, given that you are going to go through at least one election cycle, if not maybe 2, which would be over a 4-year period.
Sure. Yeah, Michael, I've been following, I've been blessed with having a good interaction with 2 of my colleagues in Washington County who are undergoing the process right now. And we'll see that is the ballot question on 2 November there. It was interesting. That was a 2-1 vote. One Democrat, 1 Republican voted for the ballot question. So it'll be interesting to see that play out. And they did just last week have a great 1-hour conversation hosted by their Economic Development Corporation. And the one comment I thought that really resonated, and again, this is part of the education process that I think anyone who is an advocate for a government study commission and potentially home rule has to understand that, that first vote isn't about changing the form of government. That first vote is simply the government study commission to analyze and assess the existing form of government, and if advisable, so in their determination, recommend home rule or an optional form of government. I thought that was a very good point that they kept resonating throughout the conversation.
Absolutely. And the key word, Commissioner, is study.
Yeah.
Because up to the first 9 months, the charge of the study commission is to study, deliberate, discuss, debate the merits, the weaknesses within the existing county form of government. And it's not only to talk to your own people, but to reach out to other counties to see how they operate under the same county code, statute. I also want to say that, for better or worse, I've been around long enough to know that Washington County looked at this issue probably 20 or so years ago.
Yes.
and they decided no change.
Right.
And also I want to say that there are a lot of referendum questions about whether or not to either elect a government study commission and study home rule or to adopt a charter.
Mhm.
And in some cases, they don't pass either way.
Right.
They just don't.
Mhm.
People just don't have that appetite, or an organized group has been able to convince the voters that keep things as it is.
As it is. And yeah, and I've seen that. I've seen it playing out in Washington. And as I researched historical articles, letters to the editor, I can see the both sides. I can see both, I think would be the just concerns. And then I could see the political concerns, power
Yes.
bases losing, control,
True.
quite frankly.
True. And another factor is that charters can be amended by the voters or
Right.
by the governing body, should there be a need to do that after the charter is adopted. One thing I do want to say that happened in Allegheny County is that when the charter was adopted in 2000, the county charter, it still had a multiple number of row offices in it. And an effort was made within that first 5 years to ask the voters to change from electing row offices to putting it under the umbrella of the county elected executive.
Mhm.
Well, it was challenged because the Home Rule Charter and Optional Plans Law says that you cannot change your form of government or the structure of your government for at least 5 years.
Oh,
And by doing that, that was changing the form or structure of your government. So after the 5 years lapsed, the question was then put on the ballot that then consolidated a lot of these row offices
Right.
into the office of, I think, court services or
Yeah, I
office
like
of
that one.
records.
Yeah, that's where like you're taking criminal and civil
Yes.
administration, combining them into one courts, and I really like that. And that's interesting. So let's talk, because we have about 5 minutes left. Cost of two things. I have noted that it seems like the majority, and again, I haven't looked at every one sufficiently into the administrative code, but the council members or commissioners of these home rule counties are part-time, and therefore their salary is commensurate with a part-time responsibility. To the point, I noticed Luzerne County, $8,000 a year, no benefits. Lehigh County initially was, the salary was the equivalent to the lowest paid county employee and no benefits. So I tend to see, I will tell you, a county commissioner here is about low 70s plus benefits, 25, 30%. So under 100,000, you can almost buy 9 council members for that same amount of money.
True.
And, it's just, again, an observation that I saw. What does a government study commission cost and who pays for it?
Well, in this case, Carbon County Board of Commissioners would appropriate money for reasonable and necessary expenses. And that is in the Home Rule Charter Optional Plans Law, that it's the governing body that appropriates funds to the Government Study Commission based upon a budget that the Government Study Commission submits and proposes to the Board of Commissioners, again, in this scenario,
Sure.
Relative to funding their activities. And some of the activities that would be funded would be advertisements for the Government Study Commission meetings under the
Sure.
Sunshine Law, and maybe photocopying, maybe some legal services
Yeah.
once for the Government Study Commission to be advised through legal issues. It could also be engaging a consultant to help
Right.
draft the charter once a decision's made.
Mhm.
And it could also be public outreach,
Right.
rental of facilities and the like. So again, a budget is part of the process, funded by the government, funded by the governing body.
Michael, to your knowledge, has the county ever repealed home rule?
Not to my knowledge.
Not to my knowledge also.
Or even at the municipal level, it's never been repealed.
Right. And I have noted, it's interesting to see, again, I understand there's many more municipalities than there are counties, but it's interesting to see how many municipalities have adopted home rule or an optional form of government. And what I did want to finish up on is, I saw in Washington County, and again, I do know there are specific ballot questions, right? The language is set
Correct.
for there. I noticed that Washington County included optional forms of government. And clarify my understanding, or correct my understanding, is that if you select an optional form of government, that doesn't change really kind of the legal administrative. You still fall under the county code, but there's a reorganization, or vice versa. How is that when you go optional form? Did we freeze up, Michael? All right, I'm going to give Michael a second here. It seems like we froze up right at the end of our time, actually. Michael, I'm going to give you a minute or two. As I had mentioned previously, with the rain here in Carbon County, it always seems when the rain comes in, we tend to have connectivity issues. I'm going to give another minute or so to see if we can bring Michael, Terry, and Andrew back online. For about the last 60 minutes, we've been talking about home rule. Home rule, which is really, to me, it's about local government reorganization. Reorganize your government so that it can manage the issues unique to Carbon County, for instance, because right now the county code is a cookie cutter approach. 3 commissioners, everything is organized the same way, 3 branches of county government. There's a lot of ineffectiveness, a lot of inefficiencies. Home rule provides an opportunity to create an organization that will best serve a specific county. So I want to thank now, with the, it seems like, inability to reconnect with Michael, Terry, and Andrew from the Department of Community and Economic Development. I want to thank them for their participation, for Michael Foreman, and with the assistance of Terry for providing the overview of home rule, and then for Michael Carpenter, another local policy specialist from DCED, to really help us go in depth into the Government Study Commission, home rule, those muscle movements that are required to go from, hey, this is a neat, interesting idea, to actually bring it to realization, from the ballot question, the vote, the study, the recommendation, development of a charter, the vote, transition, and implementation. For all your resources, where's the one-stop shop for information on home rule? carbonforhomerule.org, carbonforhomerule.com. You can find it there. You'll have the resources. You'll have charters. You'll have Government Study Commission reports. You'll have the DCED guide. You'll have a proposed timeline for a Government Study Commission, a ballot petition, home rule in Carbon County. So again, I'm Carbon County Commissioner Chris Lukasiewicz. Thank you all those who are currently on Facebook joining me, and in anticipation of others who will watch this at a later date. Feel free, if you have any questions about home rule, about Carbon for Home Rule, give me a call at 570-503-6780, 570-503-6780, or carbonforhomerule@gmail.com. Carbon 4, the number 4, like C4, carbon 4, home rule @gmail.com. I'm Carbon County Commissioner Chris Lukasiewicz. Have a wonderful day. Please don't forget to get out there and vote on 2 November if you haven't already voted by absentee or mail-in ballot. Have a great day.